Hey, what's happening, everybody? Welcome to the Monday night version of studentloanjustice.org. Monday, November 2nd. Tomorrow is the election. Thank goodness. I'm just glad it's over. Honestly, it's been, for us, for you, maybe it's been like a few months or 6 months or whatever. For us, really, this election campaign started shortly after President Trump was inaugurated. We were living in Washington, D.C., and our number one guy at the time, John Delaney, announced that he was running for president like shortly after inauguration. So for us, this campaign season kind of never ended. But I'm very happy to tell you now here today that we really changed this election, folks. And by the way, if you're new, welcome. We're glad you found us. We're the oldest, largest, and really only legitimate citizens group actually fighting for student loan justice. Now, for the first 15 years, long years of our existence, we were fighting very moderately for the return of bankruptcy protections to student loans. But, dudes, this lending system is now failed. Like, by every reasonable metric or measure, this lending system is failed. And these loans truly have to be canceled. That's it. The lending system has gone, it's not savable. It's gone over the cliff, over the falls, if you will. Hey, and by the way, if you have any questions or comments, feel free to throw them out. I'm very happy to respond to them in stream. So here we are, finally, tomorrow. At long last is the election. Unfortunately, we couldn't endorse either of the major party candidates. The only party that we could endorse this time around was the Green Party. And if you're a big Biden person, that should be very concerning to you, by the way, because same thing happened 4 years ago. We got a little closer with Biden, I will say. But he didn't do the minimum thing that we really, really needed him to do, which is to emulate Elizabeth Warren, who did do what we wanted her to do, and Bernie Sanders, and pledge at a minimum that she would return bankruptcy protections to student loans by executive order. Now, that's very important, folks, because we cannot trust Congress to pass a ping pong ball out of a paper bag. It just isn't going to happen. Congress is not going to solve this problem. It's impossible. They're not going to pass a law that raises $1 or $2 trillion to pay for student loan cancellation, which is an absurd thought in the first place. Because 85% of all federal student loans, the taxpayers already paid for those loans. There's no good reason for them to pay twice. But suffice it to say, Congress is not going to pass that law. And whatever they do pass will wind up being a watered down, clunky, strings attached mishmash, much like we already have. We've got several loan cancellation, call it forgiveness or cancellation. I call it cancellation. Other people call it forgiveness. I think cancellation is a more appropriate word at this point because we haven't done anything to feel sorry for. But we've got any number of loan cancellation programs already in place. And 99% of all the people who are trying for them are not getting them because the Department of Education has no desire or intentions of canceling any loans. And also, by the way, few people realize Congress has to appropriate money to cancel these loans. For every dollar in loans canceled by Congress, they have to raise $1. So take it from other programs, raise taxes, what have you. And so it's just it's a pipe dream. It's a non-starter to say that Congress will be canceling loans. So, however, by executive order, and by the way, Congress, in the 15 years we've been doing this, couldn't even find a way to pass the return of bankruptcy protections. So, getting an executive order to return bankruptcy was our minimum threshold to endorse a candidate. That's why we really wanted either Elizabeth Warren or Bernie Sanders to get this nomination. It would have really helped. But here's what we did do, and we really changed this election, folks. I mean, really changed this election. So we moved to Iowa. We were there for 9 months. We were able to convince both Elizabeth Warren and Bernie Sanders to make that pledge for bankruptcy. And that in itself is kind of like, well, okay. And by the way, we were the people who got Elizabeth Warren to even bring bankruptcy into the presidential campaign, period. So good on us. That's our efforts. This group, you and me, and our state chapter leaders, and our members, and everybody that made that happen. And Joe Biden at least said he was adopting Elizabeth Warren's bankruptcy plan. Hey, we have a comment here from Michael Cheney. Hi, refinance my loans, paid $20,000 in interest, got to deduct 2,000 interest, not paying my loans till I get to take the other $18,000 out of my taxes. Yeah, sounds like you have private loans, Michael. And you're right. You raise a very interesting point. We don't. First of all, we don't give advice on the site. We just don't do it. The lending system is failed catastrophically. The loans must be canceled, and bankruptcy protections must be returned to the loans that cannot be canceled directly by the president by executive order. But we get a lot of people, and prior to say like COVID or so, I would talk to people and they'd say, yeah, I had a whole boatload of federal loans and I refinanced them with SoFi or some other private lender. And, up until February, I would have said that that's a pretty smart move. Not so much with SoFi because for some reason they have found a way to keep bankruptcy protections gone from their private loans. They consider them private educational loans. I don't see how they did that, but whatever. But just going to a bank and getting a home mortgage refinance and paying off your loans on your own, that was kind of a smart thing to do. Not because you're necessarily getting a savings in interest, but rather because that would at least guarantee you the same consumer protections that every other borrower enjoys for every other type of loan. So in general, I'd be like, yeah, good job. I hope you got a good deal on interest, and typically they did, so that's good. But folks, I'm here to tell you this is a catastrophically failed lending system now. Certainly the federal lending system is toast. It's done. Put a fork in it. So, and as I said, we don't give advice, but the president does not have the ability to cancel private student loans or loans that are not owned directly by the federal government by executive order. So where before I would have been like, yeah, that was a great move, pretty much a no-brainer, glad you were able to do it, good job. Now, I have to be quiet because we don't know. We don't know how this is going to go. We do know that the federal student loan system is vanishing into a mist of illegitimacy, folks. It just is. Almost nobody is paying on their loans right now. And if you think that many or maybe even any people are going to resume paying on their student loans when this moratorium is done, I think you're just wrong. I think this COVID crisis is the nail in the coffin, certainly of the federal lending program. So I don't know that I would be so quick to, and I have student loans, by the way, as well, but I won't even, my loans were defaulted improperly. I've got my own little personal tale, but I will not even touch my loans until, at a minimum, we get the bankruptcy protections returned to student loans that should have never been taken away. So I'm kind of out of the game. I'm off the grid, if you will. But for those of you who have federal loans and you're thinking about converting them into being private loans, I don't know, guys. This federal lending system has got to be canceled at this point. One way or the other, I think that's going to happen. That's what we're fighting for, and I don't see any other option. Even returning bankruptcy protections to federal student loans at this point would be probably the wrong thing to do, because that would only ensure that 25 million people get forced into bankruptcy court. So, I'm just trying to give you more information so you can make a good decision, make your own decision. We don't give advice, as I said. But you certainly may want to consider that in thinking about converting your loans from federal to private. Because while the president can and must and hopefully will quite soon cancel federal loans, he can't touch private loans. And, private loans also do not have bankruptcy protections, and they've got strange truth in lending laws behind them, etc. So you might want to think about that. Yeah, when you say Great Lakes, Michael, that doesn't tell me anything. You could still have private loans. Great Lakes is a private nonprofit, or at least they used to be nonprofit. I think they're being purchased by Nelnet now. They are a servicer, both a servicer and a guarantor. So I don't know. You need to check and see if your loans are owned by the federal government or not. That is the key question for you. Gordon Wayne Watts says, Alan's correct. Presidential has no power to cancel private loans. Question. Why did this even come up? I mean, did you used to think that? No, I was just responding to Michael's comment, talking about student loan refinancing. So yeah, folks. So I suspect we have both Biden fans and Trump fans on this group, and unfortunately, we can endorse neither candidate. But just to finish my thought, we really kicked ass this election, not only because we got bankruptcy introduced into the conversation, and supposedly Joe Biden is adopting Elizabeth Warren's bankruptcy proposal, which is great. And if he'd actually done that, we would be popping some champagne corks here tonight. But probably what's most important is that we were the lone voice in the wilderness calling for the presidential cancellation of student loans. As of like a year ago, we were like, hey, bankruptcy is great, but the president can cancel all federally owned student loans, which is 85% of all student loans, by executive order. And he can do it without needing congressional approval, without needing congressional appropriation, in other words, without having to pay for anything, and without adding one penny to the national debt. And at this point in time, that is really the only viable way to solve this problem, folks. I'm not kidding you. There is no better way to stimulate the economy, number one. Here we are in COVID. Here we are throwing PPP loans out into the country, $500 billion or probably $1 trillion in loans to businesses that don't have to be paid back, and which, oh, by the way, also add to the national debt. So that's maybe a good way to stimulate the economy, but it certainly isn't a good way to save money. Canceling all federal student loans by executive order is exactly and the only good, cheap, expedient, easy, and I would say best targeted way to stimulate the economy without killing the taxpayer in increasing the national debt. So here we are in COVID. We've been calling for this for over a year now, since well before COVID. We've been a voice in the wilderness, by the way. But I'm very happy to tell you, and this is the most important thing we got done this year. 5 weeks ago, Elizabeth Warren and Chuck Schumer, I'm not going to say stole our idea, but really they kind of stole our idea. They appropriated our idea, and they introduced a Senate resolution calling on the president to cancel student loans by executive order. So, good on us. Now, having said that, their proposal was just nonsense. They were calling for up to $50,000 in loan cancellation, which is just stupid in the first place. It could mean anything. And there also was some racially divisive rhetoric built into their resolution. So in other words, the resolution was never serious. It was really just a political thing. I think more than anything, they wanted to scare the Republicans off of the concept. And on that, I would say they were pretty successful, right? I mean, President Trump never responded, never reacted, yay or nay. So the Democrats were very successful in sort of capturing the flag on our concept. So however it may play out, it's a good thing on balance. And don't forget, folks, that started right here with me and you and this group. Hey, Gordon has another comment. We need to tell lawmakers and the president what needs to be done to avoid getting a breakdown on the next election and avoid a crash of the dollar. Yeah, we've been around and around about this, Gordon, in the past. I don't see the dollar crashing one way or the other as a result of this problem. This is a federal lending system that is by and large stovepiped off from other sectors of the economy. That's one of the good things certainly about federal student loans, which are 85% of all student loan debt. So I don't see that as a big deal. Also, folks, and this is maybe the more important point I'll make tonight, is we don't really need Congress. The only thing we need Congress for is to repeal the bankruptcy code and make student loans dischargeable in bankruptcy like they should have always been. We need Congress for that. That is true. An executive order returning bankruptcy is a little bit of a dicey proposition. Doesn't affect private student loans, by the way. So, yeah, we need Congress to return bankruptcy protections to student loans for all the loans that the president can't cancel by executive order directly. But that's pretty much all we need Congress for, folks. As I said, Congress cannot, will not, is not going to cancel student loans. Whatever ridiculous loan cancellation program they might vote in will never work. It will fail. It will be lame. It will suck, just like all the other existing loan cancellation programs. So in many ways, folks, we're done with Congress. And good riddance, quite frankly. You know, we've been screwed around by Congress for 15 years now. And to be done with those assholes, pardon my French, is kind of a good place to be. The Republicans were terrible, just against us totally. But, you know, the Democrats were not much better. And we're done pushing the candidates. We quit pushing the candidates like on Friday or Saturday. So, and most of the votes have been cast. So, you know, everybody, you can all take off your partisan hat tonight and we can talk truth about what we can expect. If Donald Trump wins this election, we can't expect anything, just nothing. If Joe Biden wins this election, we really can't expect anything, folks. We can expect some hopey-changey rhetoric, much like Obama did for 8 years. But as far as real change, as it stands now, we can't. There's no good reason to expect that Biden will do anything for us, unless he is pushed by us, like really hard. And that same comment goes for President Trump. So pretty much whoever wins tomorrow, guys, we're still kind of screwed. We are. But at least we know we're screwed and we know what we're up against. And so going forward after whenever they announce this election results, we need to triple down our efforts to reach out and find, first of all, the 55 million people who vote in the country who either have student loans or are co-signed on them. But the most important subset of that group is the 80% of that group who were never going to be able to repay their loans even before the election. That's really important. These people are losing sleep over their loans, and they absolutely need to know about this group because we are it, folks. We're the only group in existence fighting for actual, real loan cancellation. We need to find them. So getting our petition, which you can see the link to probably over there or maybe down there, getting that petition up to proportions more appropriate to the size of this problem is what we have to do. And I'm talking like I would love to get 5 to 10 million signatures on that petition as quickly after the election as possible. Now, that may sound like, whoa, are you kidding me? That's crazy. That would like break records for petitions on change.org and stuff. And yeah, it would. But folks, we've already got 750,000 signatures. And, you know, if everybody got even one or two people they knew to sign who have student loans and who are 80% of them are freaking out about them, that right there would be getting up to over nearly, 3 million people or so. So there's no good reason why we can't get to 5 million signatures, 10 million, 15, 44 million signatures would be about what our ceiling is, or maybe even more if you include the other 10 million who aren't having any problems. So really, there's no good reason why we can't get 20 million signatures on this petition. Seriously. That's where my focuses are going to be like a laser beam after this election, folks. And you need to help me because, dudes, we're it. We are it. The fate of this lending system kind of rests on what you do, what I do, we in this group, our state chapter leaders like Gordon and others. But it's very important, guys. These are your loans. This is your problem. And we're in a great position. As I said, we kicked ass this election season. This is a very different presidential election because of our efforts and only because of our efforts. I'm not kidding you. It's really good. The Chuck Warren, Elizabeth Schumer Senate resolution, whether you realize it or not, is probably the most important thing that we did that happened as a result of our efforts because it validates our strategy. And that was kind of a big deal. There were a lot of swamp people who were saying, oh, no, the president can't cancel loans by executive order. That's just ridiculous. No, he can't do it because this lame reason, that lame reason. Well, having Elizabeth Warren, Chuck Schumer, and a dozen other senators come out and say, oh, yes, the president can cancel loans, that helps us a lot. I mean, I knew that he could in the first. We researched this very carefully and thoroughly, so there's never a doubt in my mind that he could do it. But just having people in high places echo our argument is very important. So election predictions. I just want to maybe get this out here, folks. I said weeks ago. I don't see a way that President Trump can win this election, not because all the stuff you're seeing on TV and all that stuff. No. I don't see a way President Trump can win this election because he did nothing on the student loan issue. He did nothing that is even worth mentioning. And bad on President Trump for that. 4 years ago, it was a wash. Not Hillary sucked, Trump sucked. So we had no one to vote for. This time around, Biden sucks and Trump sucks, but Biden at least pierced the veil and he's mouthing the words loan forgiveness and bankruptcy. And so that put the issue into play. And most of the voters aren't like you and me. They don't know that Biden's plan sucks. So Biden is going to win over a very large number of those 44 million distressed student loan borrowers who are losing sleep over their loans. And I mean, Trump is, I have to say, it's astonishing the idiocy of Trump's campaign staff. And, I'm sorry to say, I'm not trying to bust any chops here, but people at the very highest levels of the Trump administration, like people whose names were very carefully considering our proposal to have Trump cancel student loans by executive order. They decided to do nothing and to say nothing. And I just don't see any way that they can possibly win this election because they punted on this issue. I don't see a way that Joe Biden can lose, frankly. I just don't see it. And the only way that I could see Trump possibly winning this election is if those 44 million distressed voters simply don't believe Biden. They're like, I so don't believe Biden that I'm going to vote for Trump. And I don't see that happening because most people just don't. They're desperate. They're vulnerable. They will grasp at the thinnest of straws. So I don't see that happening. But so that's just. I'm just saying that for the record. It is Monday, November 2nd, and the tale will be told. Hopefully this time tomorrow, but we'll see. Hey, we have another comment here. Just to finish a point, Gordon. So yeah, harassing our lawmakers. I don't think we need to even waste our breath anymore, Gordon. For bankruptcy, yeah, we'll push them. But at this point, it's all about us getting 5 million people in this group or more. And quite frankly, I think by popular consent, everybody needs to stop paying their loans. Most of them probably will anyways because they just can't. And so whenever this moratorium is up, people are going to be like, yeah, I'm just not doing that. Not because I don't want to or whatever, but I just can't. This economy sucks. I'm not working, blah, blah, blah. But I think we may need to go even above and beyond that and say, we need to make a pitch, a very strong statement to the country, to everybody with student loans and say, hey, people, at this point, not only is it unwise to resume paying on your student loans, it's unpatriotic. Don't feed this beast. So Gordon says, not just signatures, Alan, but also raising awareness. Yeah, everything that goes along with that, Gordon. We need to, we are going to have a very nice window of opportunity with the media as soon as the election results are cast and that whole din dies down. There may be riots, there may be social unrest and so forth, but I think there's going to be a nice window of opportunity for some of the media to start getting back to normal. And that's where we come in. And the media should be our friend, folks. Just in the past 6 weeks, we've been featured on Newsweek and Heavy.com and Yahoo News and Fox News. We made the little ticker of Fox News, Fox Business, and just a ton of other media, local media, national media. So the media should be our friends, folks, and we need to hit that hard. Speaking of media, I should say, just this afternoon, I did a town hall in support of the documentary we're making. It's called scaredtodebtmovie.com. It was a town hall with people like Matt Taibbi. He's the Rolling Stone reporter. You may know about him. Really nice guy, really good guy, smart guy. Matt and Catherine Austin Fitz, the former Sally Mae board member, who has come over to our side of this issue, thank goodness. Tom Borgers, the very famous investigator who shined the light on the subprime home mortgage scandal. You probably saw him interviewed Top Story on 60 Minutes a few years ago. And of course, Mike Camoin, the filmmaker. So it was a really good town hall, and it's going to be published November, or it's going to be aired on November 20th. You all are going to really like it. And by the way, let me just put a quick plug in to scaredtodebtmovie.com or down there, scaredtodebtmovie.com. We're producing. Mike is producing this film in a pretty unconventional way. We're going for big executive producer type funding, but we're also crowdfunding this thing. And so, by all means, if you have any expendable money worth investing, definitely support this film. We don't need a whole lot to get it done. Well, in our little economy, it's a huge amount that we need to raise, like $250,000, which is just a ton. By our very austere measures. But by filmmaking measures, that's really not that much. So anything that you can do to chip in, please do it. Scaredtodebtmovie.com. And I'm telling you, you guys are going to love this film. And you're going to love this town hall, too. Matt was a great moderator. Also, and some other people there. You'll see it. So I see some other comments there. I don't see anything that really rises to the level that I can really comment. A lot of partisan politicking going on the page. I can see, Gordon. So everybody's got their wishes, dreams, thoughts, and predictions about who's going to win tomorrow. I've given you mine, so other people have given you theirs. But let me just finish tonight by saying, whichever way this election goes, folks, we have our work cut out for us. We have our marching orders. This group is the group that is going to solve this problem. Don't forget that. There are a lot of other people calling for loan cancellation, and all of their plans suck. All of the other plans require Congress. That's nonsense for the reasons I mentioned. This group is where it's at. Tell everyone you know with student loans about this group, about our petition. Do everything you can tonight, tomorrow, and ad infinitum, or at least until we solve this problem, to spread the word about this petition. That's maybe the most important thing I'll say. So, okay, folks. I think I'm just gonna leave it there at that. We could do this for hours. I love it, but let's cut it short for tonight. Thanks everybody who joined us. Again, we do these live streams almost every night. If you're watching on YouTube, I'm sorry. It's not live on YouTube. You can come to our Facebook group, facebook.com/groups/ SLJ group if you want to participate in person. And we're glad to have you. It's usually a pretty fun give and take here. And as I said, guys, we're it. We are it. I kind of wish we weren't it. I wish there was other people, other groups fighting for the right thing like we are, the only thing that can solve this problem. But it is what it is. So tell a friend, take this problem seriously. Get ready to really help us. Like, get off the couch, because this problem will absolutely not get solved until you sitting there, actually get up and help us. This is the way democracy works. This is the way it's always worked. Oppressed peoples have always had to fight for every inch of whatever they've gotten. It was never given to them. They've always had to fight, and so too is that true for us here today. But good luck. Have a great night. Let's strap it on. Godspeed. And God bless everybody.